Yes.
Hello and welcome to Nerdarchy. For nerds, by nerds, I'm Nerdarchy Steve, and today I'm hanging out with this nerd.
Nerder Doug.
And today we'll be talking about running D&D, Words of Power. It's just kind of fun to say, actually.
It is. Words have enormous power. I actually just thought of another way as I was saying that sentence.
I meant to look up, but I forgot to. Kobold Press did a whole series on all kinds of different magic, right? And I'm like, there's got to be something in there
Yeah.
that they covered.
The Deep Magic.
What's that?
The Deep Magic series.
Yeah, yeah. So I just imagine, I'm pretty sure they did runes.
Mm-hmm, they did. Maybe it was Angelic Words. Is that what it was, or something like that?
And I just feel like there might even be more of them as well.
They got that Kickstarter going on right now for the Deep Magic book, which I'm sure people are pretty stoked about.
No, it's Angelic Words.
Yeah. Oh, Wards. Well, if you said it, yeah, is that if they're angels from Jersey, then it is.
None of the words.
Yeah.
But so they didn't do any true magic per se, but they did do runes, and I think runes falls into that as well because it's the written word.
Yeah, sure. There you go.
Wizards of the Coast, the Wizards tradition that just went up is literally about using true names.
Mm-hmm. That's the one I thought of like just a second ago. I was like, duh. They just said they had the anomancy.
So yeah. So there's definitely a lot there, in a lot of the different fiction and fantasy stuff.
Sure.
The true word is definitely a big deal. If you know a creature's true word, even in earlier versions of D&D, the idea that you could use a true word, even in I think 5e, it's brought up a little bit when you're talking about conjuring and summoning demons and devils and such.
Elfbait in the chat mentioned 3.5 had the naming magic. Before we did this video, I went on D&D Beyond and just searched word just to see what came up. And there's a bunch of stuff. There's divine word, healing word, mass healing word, power words, word of radiance.
Yeah, there's a ton of spells.
Magic items have command words. And word of recall, which is a little used spell. And other than that, it looks like other.
We used to use. I think we used that. I've used that a lot as a DM. That is like a great spell for like I want to use this villain again.
Mm-hmm.
So whether they kill them or not, have the word of recall go off at the very end. One, they don't get their stuff, and two, like if they're not dead on scene, there's definitely a big question mark. And if we're talking about comic books, there's no way they're dead.
Yeah. Well, even in D&D, there's resurrections and stuff like that too. So villains can be resurrected. Well,
and clones and there's that simulacrum, and there's definitely a bunch of ways to do it.
But word of recall is definitely an underused one. We gave it to the ultimate healer or whatever we called it. The creature version in the character build guide had word of recall.
Oh, the combat medic.
Yeah, it was
it the combat medic, or
yes,
was it?
Yes, that was what it was, the combat medic, and it was probably on the character spell list too. It's just like, and if things go really bad, boop, we out, like just GTFO.
Yeah, we'll try again.
Yeah, sure.
I know they're all telling us where they're from. Yeah, Arizona, Illinois,
like live chat of old, man.
I know. Well, welcome all. We're glad and happy to have you here.
Yeah.
You know what though? We don't have Ted, so like there's usually so I don't know what the if there's any things we're supposed to go over or not.
Well, I don't know. What does he usually do? Giveaways? You got anything?
He usually handles the giveaways, the whether or not it's a fan game or not.
I have my first fan game this Sunday, and I haven't heard back from anybody, so I'll probably be reaching out on Discord and our secret Facebook group and such.
Okay, yeah. So Doug is going to be looking for some players. When is your game?
This Sunday. But I guess if nobody it's movable. I just picked a random date.
So generally, what we do, and it's surprising how often we have to find a whole slew of players. Generally we just send out a message in Patreon.
Okay.
And feels like that. But then again, you can use Discord. You can use the NAG if you want. However you want to reach out and see if people want to join the game or not.
I'll probably reach out tomorrow. I was like, I'll give them till Wednesday. It's the middle of the week. Hey, we got Arcania's workshop in the chat.
Yeah. Me and Scott we'll be chilling and hanging out in Wisconsin soon, the end of the month, couple of weeks.
Oh, is he going to GameholeCon too?
Yes.
Is that what it is? GameholeCon?
It is GameholeCon. Yeah. I'm actually going as his booth beard, sort of.
Oh, okay. There's another word in the beardomancy. There's a beard of something. It's power word beard, and it makes somebody's beard. Of course, it is. Yeah.
So let's talk about some like interesting ways we could use it in our games and do stuff like I feel like you could base a whole campaign around this. Like for instance, like if you're going to go with a game that's kind of a little more old school where the players, don't necessarily start off with knowing each other and the DM's trying to figure it out. What if you started the game with each of the players having had their true name captured or known, right? And maybe they don't even know what true name magic is yet, right? It could mean nothing to them. But someone has their true name and now they're using it. Mm-hmm. So it could be kind of like a tie to bind them together. And you could do it of one of two ways, where it's kind of a geese type thing, which is always dickish, where they're forced to work for someone they don't want to work for. Hopefully you can find if you're going to go that way, I think it's important to find like an interesting way of doing it.
Mm-hmm. What if it was just a trick? What if it was a huckster? And he just told them and like made kind of like a Mysterio thing and just like did some kind of like minor illusion type stuff. I mean, their first level characters to convince them like, yeah, if you betray me, like this is what'll happen because I know your true name. It's like he doesn't know anything. He just
he really just did a bunch of research and he's got a whole team working for him.
Yeah, why not?
That could work. Mm-hmm. I mean, I just saw Far From Home this weekend, so.
Awesome movie. Let's see. Oh, there's some chat. Let's see. I saw something in the chat. Michael Herrera. Just shout out to Ursula Le Guin, who's an awesome sci-fi author. Raven Thies. Let's see. I haven't seen him in a while. Somebody had a question.
Raven's been popping in and out. I've seen Raven around from Australia, I believe.
Elfbait says in his 2E days, he ran a campaign where true names were a form of defense. Knowing a true name of a being made you immune to them. That's pretty cool. Hey, if anybody has any questions, just preface them with a question or put Nerdarchy in front of it.
Yeah, it makes it much easier to pick them out. DM Don missed the subject. So we're talking about words of power in D&D and how they can be used. And it's and also like rune magic is another fun thing, especially like it for if you're playing dwarf characters.
It does seem very dwarvish, right? Because they're like chiseling the runes into things.
Or if you wanted to go with a more of a Norse mythology, but the idea of a wizard that instead of having a spell book has a bag of runes that they study, then that's how they prepare their spells. Is kind of cool.
That is kind of cool.
And eventually that sucker's going to get heavy, and you can just use it as a club or sap someone.
Yeah, it's like a sap.
Yeah,
it's just filled with runes. And you could probably talk to your DM like they have orbs and staves as spell focuses. Just ask them if you can make it your runes. That'd be cool. There
is another cool way of using words of power and true names, especially like allowing the players to find a true name. And maybe you don't tell them. Like, you don't tell them. There's this writing. And you're like, so you read this? And they're like, oh, yeah, I can figure it out. I can read it. And you maybe even make them do a skill challenge to do it. Because the best traps are when you make them work hard to F themselves. So you make them do a skill challenge to do it. And then finally, the character that cracks it, it's like, you're like, oh, here's the name. Do you reveal it to the rest of the party?
Okay.
And if they say yes, that essentially means they would have to speak it.
Mm-hmm.
And there's many beings, if you speak their name.
Yeah, they can hear it.
They hear it, yes. And they may not be happy about it.
Yeah, that's cool.
So like you speak Demogorgon's true name, and he
Oh my
shows up.
gosh. Yeah. Yeah, well, that's the cool thing about being a DM. You can pretty much do whatever you want. They can, they conceal things away too with words of power. And you might just like, what if they were translating? They just like read it out loud because they're like, oh, it says this, and then it activated something, some kind of seal. Because like in
Uh,
your case, if you were noticed by some entity because you said their name, you wouldn't know that. So
yes,
kind of like in isn't there one of the deck of many things? It's like just a devil somewhere. Just it's like you're
doesn't
just
like
not.
you.
Yeah,
Yes, you earn the anonymity of a greater fiend or devil or something like that.
yeah.
Oh, so someone asked about a soul gorger in the chat, and that's a Magic the Gathering thing. Is that in your purview of knowledge
It is not.
after your time?
I don't. It could have been before too. I don't know. Let's
Oh,
see. What is it? How do you know it's from Magic? Do they say that?
because I have
Oh, you
I have
googled it.
Googles. I have the Googles.
I'm surprised we don't see more Magic. I guess they just said they Ravnica, but that's a pretty fertile ground for fantasy stuff.
uh, do we have a second Brazilian in the chat? I know we had someone else that said they're from Brazil up a ways, and someone else did, which is awesome. We love fans from all over the place, and
Yep.
let D&D spread everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think one of the highlights to live chats was the time. It was for a while we had like 3 people that would show up from Sweden. It's like you guys watching together. What's going on here?
Yeah, we're huge in Sweden. I remember those days.
Well, we used to do the live chats every day.
Yep.
Kind of miss it. I miss it a little bit.
Mm-hmm. So we kind of talked about ways like for the Oh, actually, that was a pretty interactive way for players and DMs to use words of power.
Yeah, it's only limited by your imagination, and if you wanted to make it a key element in your campaign.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like it's a very campaign specific thing, and
well, it is and it isn't. I mean, I just totally lost the thought I was saying. Oh, like even things where like magic items have command words. Like most people are, in my experience, not a lot of people like tell you what they are and stuff. So that's another way. They always say like when your a DM tip is like use all the 5 senses. That's one. Hearing. Your what you hear. So if you wanted to role play.
Sorry, man. There's a question in the chat for you specifically,
Yeah, I saw it. Fraginator, he just likes busting balls.
I know. That actually came up before we started.
Yes, I went out to get them, and I forgot why I went out, and I got other things, so... Deal with it, Internet.
I don't know. I was going to get batteries, but now I have Oreos. I don't know what happened.
That's a decent trade-off. I don't begrudge people asking what we think about the Onomancy Wizard, because that seems like that was what we'd be talking about, but it didn't even cross my mind until we started this live chat.
Yeah.
I didn't look at it much.
We're actually going to be doing the new UA tomorrow. We're going to be shooting a video about that. So I hadn't read it yet. I glanced at it before, but then I knew we were going to be doing this chat. I'm like, you know what? There's one in there about that. So let me take a look at it real quick. I like it. At a glance, I think it's really cool. What I'm seeing wizards in this last group of Unearthed Arcanas do a lot of is abilities prolong rest.
Oh yeah, I didn't notice that.
Yes, they're doing that a lot, and sometimes a lot of times it appears to be key to your prime stat as well.
Okay.
Which is interesting and also seems a little problematic for because certain character classes are very short rest dependent. So if you have mechanics that encourage long rests, I guess it won't matter so much. But so I don't know if it encourages long rest over short rest to get the most out of a warlock per se. You need a lot of short rests. Mm-hmm. Monk does really well with short rests as well. Although monk is almost like an exception because they get their key points back after like 10 minutes. It's not even really a short rest.
Really? Is it? I never noticed that before. It's only like...
Yeah, I think theirs is a specific time. Unless I'm talking out my butt again.
That's another way I just thought of that you could incorporate words into your campaign is like, to make like leveling up and stuff more like an experience for the characters as well as like maybe when your monk levels up, you actually learn the name of a new technique or something, and that can just add that little extra flavor. And it could be a role playing thing when you are at the tavern or whatever, and you can. Maybe somebody challenges you to a fight, and they're like, "Oh, I heard a rumor that whatever this
Well,
technique
it
is."
used to be. It used to be that like you always had titles for everything. It's 30
Yeah.
minutes. It's not 10 minutes. It's 30 minutes,
Oh,
but it's
okay.
not an hour either. So
Right, right. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, like when you leveled up, like there was only one of that guy,
at
or
the
that
higher
character.
levels, yeah.
Yeah.
But no. In like first edition, I don't know if they continued in second edition. But every time you gained a level, you had a
Oh yeah,
title,
I think they were in second edition. Yeah, yeah. Those are really
which
cool.
which was interesting. And yeah, certain classes, monk and druid, when you got to the higher levels, there was like only one guy that did that or one girl that did that.
Mm-hmm.
And if you wanted to be the one that did that, you had to beat the predecessor.
Oh, that's a good point. Crazy Hermit DM, the Dragonborn word techniques from Skyrim is another good example. Yeah, and that's an awesome way to, add like unique like treasures or rewards to players too. I mean, if they're not the whole campaign isn't based around it, but like maybe they learn a word of power and like it's only good for one character can learn one, and they do special things. Yeah, that's a totally awesome idea.
I like the fact that Perella in the chat is taking the ornamency and mixing it with Uno
Yes, you
and a
should
deck of many
absolutely
things.
do that. Yeah, and put it up on the DM's Guild, or we'll steal it and do it. That's next April Fools. Go along with the Beardomancer.
So Christian wants to know if we've had any cool stories come up with true naming stuff that happened in our campaigns. I don't think we've really used it that much. I seem to recall in my very earliest of days with my first dungeon master that it came up, and it was more like one of us said someone's name and we shouldn't have,
Hmm.
and it later created a conflict and encounters for us, and also maybe a devil's enmity. But that being said, that was also going back a good I don't know 25 to 30 years. So
Actually, so a lot of time, a little inside baseball for people in chat. A lot of times when we pick the newsletter topics, they might be a term like a monster name, but like we try to think of it in different terms than that. And sometimes we don't. We just talk about the thing. But when I suggest that, what I was actually thinking about was how much power your words as a DM have, because it comes up a lot. It's like whenever, I'm sure you've experienced this a million times, no matter what you say, like the players are going to think that's important, because it's like, why, like even if you're describing a room, you're like, yeah, there's a tapestry on the wall and a bookcase and blah blah blah. It's like, well, what's on the tapestry? Like, I don't know, like a knight fighting a dragon. It's like, well, like that means something. And it's like, why did he say that? There's a lot of stuff in the room and he just chose to mention that. So like your words carry a lot of power with the players too. But like,
even other players' words. I mean, really, like just the general concept of the power of the spoken word in the game. Because let's face it, we play a game that's predominantly envisioned through the words, the pictures we paint with our words.
mm-hmm.
As a GM and as the player. We went to an event last night, me and my wife, and it was a live D&D show in New York City at this place called the Cauldron, and it's like this cool like fantasy-esque themed bar.
Okay.
They even have like a 15-foot tree in the center of the bar that is also a tap. And the way it works is you're like issued a wand, and the wand is used to bill you and make the tap flow. So you can just like go get your own beer, which is kind of cool. But during the live show, like one of the characters was playing a Dragonborn Ranger with a beast companion, Dame Shirley Batsy, which became like a focal point for a lot of the audience because it was a little bit on the interactive side. Like they had these tokens that you would get for being there, and then if you bought things off the menu, you could get more tokens. And the way it worked is if you gave them X amount of tokens, they get a flask. And it went up to 4 flasks. So, like, then the players could turn their flask in to have special abilities happen. And if you turned in 4, or if they got 4, their flask overflowed.
Okay.
And at 3, they unlock special abilities, like secret superpowers that each of the characters had. Well,
okay. Sorry, I thought you were done.
So but because like the player introduced this like pet character that wasn't really supposed to be subject to this part of the game, but like instantly when I saw that, I'm like, yeah, I want to spend favors for the bat, not for any of the players. and the players who had the bat and the DM were like, huh. That wasn't something we considered, but well, this is what's happening now.
Doesn't it every D&D game ever?
Yeah, pretty much. And once that got started, it snowballed. Like the bat got more favors than anyone at the table, maybe several of the players combined. And the other effect was I don't think that player got any because they all would just go to his bat.
So here's so did the bat, like, was it an MVP? Did it do, was it instrumental in the adventure because of that?
Oh yeah, it killed a dragon.
Of course. So that's a pretty interesting concept. So they have like a dinner theater with sort of like that Twitch style audience participation, except you're literally sitting right there.
Yeah, it was actually I actually liked the way they had done it, and they also decided that they were going to do just positive ads. You couldn't do like some of the Twitch ones are like you can penalize the players against them. But we got Comic Book University that showed up. It must be because I was thinking about Man-Bat because. So when your flask overfills and you unlock the special ability, there's also a random effect.
Ooh.
So when Dame Shirley Batsy overflowed, it became a giant bat that was the size of a dragon. And the polymorph was the random chaos effect.
Oh my gosh.
So the Dragonborn got polymorphed into like a man-bat type creature. Or werebat if you prefer.
Yeah.
But the thing was like it's like you can only spend your favors to pretty much do positive things for the players. But of course, there was at least one person who's like, here's 50 favors. I want to overflow the DM.
Okay.
So that bad stuff would happen to the players.
Oh, I thought you said there wasn't bad stuff that happened.
There wasn't, but you couldn't really. The bat wasn't an option either.
Well, yeah, like you said, that's D&D.
That's D&D. The players and D&D fans are just going to do crazy what they want to do anyway.
Yep. So there's actually a couple questions, Michael Herrera. The most important question of all: how do you get your wife into D&D? His just calls him a nerd.
You know what? They got to want to do it. Essentially. Like there is no, you cannot make people do something that they don't want to do, and if she's not interested, she's not going to do it.
Mm-hmm. You just had your game with her and your family, but like what, 2 weeks ago?
Yeah, no, Friday.
Oh, was that? Wow, time.
Yeah, Friday. My wife has not shown interest in decades, and then more recently she's gotten involved with me and the kids playing.
Mm-hmm.
Here and there. So it could still happen, but it's going to be in their time.
Yep. I recently got my girlfriend to try D&D for the first time. I think I told you, or maybe it was Ted, I was at a birthday party last week, and a bunch of, people came out of the woodwork because they asked, I didn't know anybody, and they asked what I did for a living. I said, well, I make D&D content on the internet. And they're like, what? Like, never understand. Yeah, but a bunch of people were like, oh, I play D&D, and some of them had heard of Nerdarchy, so that was pretty cool.
You're famous.
Yep. Well, they didn't know me, but they just heard of Nerdarchy. Yeah, that is pretty cool in the chat. There's a lot of people in there.
Yeah, man, we got people hanging out with us, chilling as we discuss.
It's intimidating. I usually only do the live chat with Ted, and there's like 3 people.
Oh. Oh, you said there was a couple questions. You only pulled one out.
Actually, I just saw the question mark, but it was Fraginator asking Bill how he was doing.
Oh, all right. Fraginator messing you up.
Yeah, like he does.
So Elf Bait is I cheated. I married a D&D player. I saw I cheated at first. I'm like, what? He's cheating on his wife with a D&D player? No, he cheated by marrying a D&D player. Kyle, my wife and I got into D&D at the same time. So, I guess one of the things might even be to actually like hang out with your D&D friends, not at a D&D game. Like do something social with them, with your wife that everyone would enjoy. And, you guys have the shared hobby. So hopefully that would all kind of, that stuff will come up and maybe she'll see, how much you and your friends have such a great time doing it that she'll maybe want to try eventually. But other than that, there isn't no like surefire way. It's when they're into it.
Yeah. But fortunately, everybody's getting into it now. It's the cool thing. Everybody realizes how cool it is now. I always thought it was the cool thing to do.
Michael was a secret nerd. My wife didn't even know I was a nerd until a year after we hooked up. Well, funny story, right? Like, so Mark plays in our game and in our in-person game, and I remember like talking to him and his fiance at the time, now wife, and and like he like was waiting to break it to her that he was a nerd and played D&D and stuff, and she was like, yeah, I kind of figured it out from the posters on your walls.
Yeah, D&D posters or just like
yeah, I think he actually had D&D posters as well.
She married him. I thought you were gonna say like she didn't know him for like decades, and she thought he was going to do something else when he would go game.
Yeah. So Draco said lost a few girlfriends because of playing D&D. You know what? They weren't keeping around anyway then. So now going back to the power of the word and maybe sure. some things that we could do with that. I think the
words breaking your game. I'm just kidding.
What's that?
Healing words breaking the game.
Yeah. Well, there is a ton of spells based off of words. Mm-hmm. So that is definitely.
I've always liked power words because it's just cool. You just point at somebody and utter a word of power literally, and just causes all these things. So those are fun to like homebrew new things.
It would be cool if those things were kind of added to the Ornamency's spell list. Or to do a spellcaster that is based on that. Maybe we should write. I'm going to write that down. That's going to be a character build idea.
I think they were featured heavily in when we did the videos about like not using any spells that have a certain component because those are just.
Oh yeah, one verbal.
Yeah.
Yeah, because they were all words.
So you could play a blind, armless wizard and still be power word killing people.
Well,
could anyone imagine in the 80s how mainstream D&D would become? No, I don't. Is the answer to that?
Yeah, that is the furthest thing from my mind. I mean, we went to a live D&D show last night that with a fantasy themed bar where the drinks are all called potions, and literally like the drinks that they came out. One of them was called the Blob, and it's like fizzing and bubbling over.
Oh,
other drinks came covered, and it's like they uncovered and all this like mist and stuff.
Oh yeah, because it was like a gastropub, so they were in all like the chemical.
Oh yeah. Right? Yeah. So there was that, and I got alcoholic tea, and I thought because it's an Earl Grey, and I thought it was going to be hot.
Mm-hmm.
And it turned out to be cold, but it was still really good. Okay. But I was thinking like you were going to get a pot of tea,
mm-hmm.
and it was going to come out, and it's alcoholic, and I was like, I have to at least try this, even if I'm not really a tea drinker.
Sure,
because this just sounds cool.
As to the mainstreaminess of D&D, like so when we were kids, I used to go to Walden Books, and there was like one bookshelf right with modules and D&D stuff, and I would hang out there for hours and think like, oh wow, there's so much stuff. And then just this year there has been 4,159 new titles on the DMs go new titles just this year. So there's like tens of thousands of things. So it's like, yeah, it's crazy how much content is out there in the mainstreaminess, and I love it. I think it's cool.
The D&D for days. Fraginator as a
Everybody, you know what? You know, there might have been less players nowadays, but I feel like everybody knew what D&D was back then. Like adults and you know what I mean? Like there might not have been as many players, and it wasn't as like, you know, like I said, like mainstream, but people knew what it was for sure. It's like a piece of Americana.
now you sound like somebody I know.
It is though, right?
I guess so. I mean, I don't, I
It's like
don't think
comic books, and I mean all these other uniquely, American things.
it's. I don't know of any role playing games that happened pre D&D.
Although sometimes you see like those like ancient games they like unearthed during an archaeological dig. Like there's that picture I've seen a million times of like a D20 from like 2500 BC or something like that. I'm sure they weren't playing D&D, but they had some kind of games.
Evangelicals knew what D&D was.
What's who did?
Evangelicals.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Of course they did. So
I never
Fraginator had a
ran into that.
question.
Okay.
Fraginator had a question. That was a good point time to bring it up. Yeah, I guess we might as well mention that the out of the box encounter pledge manager is up, so you can late pledge. And so some of you may have the same problem, but Frag is going to the page in the email, and it's just taken to a Kickstarter page that is correct because that Kickstarter page has all the instructions for late pledging as well as your surveys and filling out your information. If you scroll down a little bit, you'll definitely find what you need, whether it's you want to, do your backer survey anonymously, or you want to log in and do it, or you want to late pledge and create an account so that you could do that. All those are options, and it's in the instructions. And if for some reason you're having any trouble, just ksupport@nerdarchy.com will help you out.
And things are moving along pretty nicely with the work on that. You just told me you got a bunch of art in today, which is kicking ass. I mean, the art that Kim is doing is really just exceptional, I think.
Yeah, definitely. A bunch of pieces came in, and we're just moving along with that. And hopefully, we'll be able to actually finish that up ahead of schedule.
Oh, I think
deliver early. That would be nice.
I'm pretty confident about that. Me and Ted are, there's the text part of it is I'd say 90% done. So that's cool. Yeah, I think it's gonna be pretty fun to get that book out and in people's hands for sure.
Fraginator, I don't read instructions.
Pretty sure if there was a game that had name-based true name subclass or whatever, I bet your Rollmaster did because that had everything. There was a bazillion classes and stuff in that game.
Well, the 80s was all about tables and charts, really.
Which I like. I enjoy a good table and chart.
It was a little excessive in the 80s.
Yeah, you're right, sure. Yeah, like as I recall, like every single weapon had its own percentile chart of what happened when you like swung and then like against different sorts of things. It's insane.
Because you can never have too many tables and charts.
I think the nickname for the game is like Chart Master or something. I've heard people mention that.
That does, yeah, that sounds familiar.
Yeah. Who did that? Iron Crown Enterprises? Is that what Ice Games?
I'm not actually sure. I've never even looked at Rollmaster, to be honest with you.
My buddy that I used to game
my go-to for fantasy is D&D. So.
Yeah, my friend of mine that I used to game with, he was just all about Rollmaster, and I've told this story before about like it took forever to make a character, and I died literally like 5 minutes in because like the campaign started, we were running through the woods, something was chasing us, I tripped and like rolled on a chart. And like like a tree root like stuck through his neck and he bled out or something. And I was like, really? That okay? And that was it. Never played that game again. That same
really?
guy.
That wasn't fun for you?
That same guy I went to Origins with for the first time, and you know the game Diplomacy.
I do not.
Oh, it's it's the game of diplomacy. It's like Risk, but much more talky, and you're literally making deals with the other people that is playing the game. I'd never heard of it, and he's like, "Oh, this game's fun. You should sign up for it and play." And I was like, "Okay," and I did, and like the first turn, like there's like accepted moves that everybody does or deals. Like England usually allies with France or whatever, and I was just doing all sorts of stuff. It was a world championship of it that I didn't notice that he had signed me up for. So these were people that had like come to, like get ranked.
You're playing against the best of the best.
Yeah, and I didn't care, so I was like effing their strategy up because they're like, "What is he doing?" Like they thought I was
It's
some kind
like
of
going to a
savant.
blackjack table and you're like, you don't know how to play blackjack, and people get mad when you play your cards wrong.
Right, but like at first they were like, "What's he doing? Is this some new strategy? Is he like some kind of savant or something? What's going on?" And then they're like, "Oh, this guy's just a moron."
So do you have trust issues with that friend?
No, we joke about it still. Whenever I see it, like when we went to Gen Con, and I think there was like diplomacy world championship. I sent him a picture. I was like, "Hey, should I should I sign up for this?"
Yes. Am I ready?
Yeah, it's been like 25 years.
You're
Oh,
going down.
let's see. Oh, that's a great question from Jimmy McCoy. If words in D&D are so powerful, does that make silence an underrated spell? Does it make subtle spell meta magic underrated? And if you play your campaign like that, yeah, absolutely. Those would be super awesome spells and abilities to have.
Yeah, well, one, depending on how you do it, and against the ornamency, that would be brutal. But silence is brutal against any spellcaster where you have to actually speak.
Mm-hmm.
So now, see, I find subtle meta magic to be like there's definitely a group of players that love that one, and then there's a group of players that usually would pass on it. So I don't know if it's underrated.
Depends on the kind of game you play. I mean, if you're playing like a tactical combat game or like that's your primary concern, it's probably not that important. But it's a great way to make like a psionic sorcerer and stuff with that, and like all those psychic damage spells and enemies abound and all that sort of stuff.
Well, I feel like so there's definitely certain players that are like, I'm going to use subtle spell, so this way they don't know I'm casting it and they can't counterspell my spell, or they just kind of
like valid thing. Getting counterspelled sucks. To speak to that earlier comment, it sucks in Magic and in D&D. I hate counterspells when people do that in Magic. It's like, God, just do something.
Like we've had at least one session where there was like 3 of us on our side that could counterspell, and like 3 of them that could counterspell on their side. So we would just like ping pong all over the place until finally something went off.
That could be fun too. I remember that it was a lot of fun when we were talking about the spell duelist. Like that would definitely feature prominently if you lived in that kind of world as a spellcaster where you just went around dueling people. That's another place where that'd be a great kind of campaign to insert like true name stuff. If you were like a party of wizards on the wizard dueling circuit, and it's like that could be like a hidden, like, ooh, maybe it's an ethical question for the party. Like, should we use this guy's true name against him? Like, is that cheating? Like, it doesn't say you can't. Different kind of magic. That'd be a pretty sweet campaign. I think that'd be a fun campaign, or at least something for like some of the players if they were like heavy spellcasters.
No, that would be kind of fun. Like, or whether it's cheating or not, it would still be fun.
Mm-hmm.
Like
silence stop words. Yeah, I think so. DM Don C. Right? I mean, that's kind of the point of the silence spell, right? Because it doesn't move with you, right? It's just like
it's in some ways it's not nearly as good as it used to be because you put it someplace and it stays there. The move used to be like to cast it on an arrow or a crossbow bolt or something and then shoot them with it.
Mm-hmm.
Or cast it on yourself and move with it.
Mm-hmm. CBUs. Have you guys talked about the Twilight Cleric? No, we just kind of we started off talking about words of power, and then like a good Nerdarchy chat just went all over the place from there. But the Twilight Cleric seems pretty cool. The answer. What do you think? I mean, that's the one I probably know the most about, just because like it's the first one in the document, and I read it. There was like
yeah, we're gonna actually be shooting a video tomorrow where we talk about the Unearthed Arcana, and it should go up Monday morning, so we'll be covering that. Which I haven't read Twilight Cleric yet either. I glanced at all of them, but I only read the wizard one, because I knew we were going to be talking about stuff tonight.
Right. Well, I thought it was pretty cool. I mean, like, people can watch the video on Monday, but just quickly. Yeah, I like the approach they took with it. It's not like a dark as like Twilight, like ooh bad, like it's all evil and dark, because they're like we have a bunch of shadow stuff, so it's more about like also at night you're at home at night generally and you're safe at night, but there is terrors out there too, so it's more about like being safe in the night. So I like that approach. They're taking a lot more like heavy narrative approach to the Nerdarchy designs, which is great, I think.
So Bell seems excited about Professor Bell from Comic Book University seems excited about the Wildfire Druid. I'm always excited to get more Druids and to see what they do. I also I'm always curious to see if they do anything more with the wild shape mechanic.
The Wildfire Druid does. They talked about that in the video too. They said they mentioned like the Spore Druid, which is one of my favorite classes. Full stop. Like in D&D, that's awesome. Circle of Spores, but that's what drew me to it too, because I don't think wild shape. It's a cool ability. It just doesn't like appeal to me personally. Like, I don't want to turn into a bunch of animals, but like commanding natural forces seems cool for sure.
Yeah, well, I do like the shapeshifter aspect of it, although I guess so. In Saber Dice, I got to play Circle of the Moon Druid for a while, which was fun, and also like they break the game fast.
Really?
Well, when you can cast Conjure Animals and then wild shape into something, yeah, it's pretty destructive.
Yeah, the first time I encountered Conjure Animals was in Ingest Quest, and Puffin Forest Ben cast it, and I thought it was a pretty cool encounter, and it was like 12 wolves or whatever, and it just annihilated the thing right
a ridiculous amount of wolves show up and attack with advantage. Essentially,
it's like my cool encounter was just like boop, it ended right then. Like they did like just a
instant kibbles and bits.
But it was fun. We had fun. Druids are best at sneaking. Screw the rogue. Hey, anybody can be good at something if you build it the right way.
Well, for Druids, it actually doesn't really matter which circle you go with. With wild shape, they are good at sneaking because you just turn into something small and innocuous.
Yeah, right, like a spider or a mouse or something.
Yes. So it makes it super easy. Also, for the Druids, I found I really like at low levels, the giant spider. It doesn't have many hit points, but I love the web ability because if you hit with it, like they have to spend their action to get out of it. Whether they succeed or it's easy to get out of, but they still have to spend an action. So, so you have to decide. So I think it's like a great team ability if you have a big bad, and if you get lucky and can keep recharging it, you can just keep hitting them with it and kind of locking them down so that the rest of the party can do their thing.
Yeah, man. Spider-Man. So there's a comment and a question in the chat. So DM Don says, well, let's read the comment first because I thought it was cool. From Louise, it would be interesting to put a treasure in a chest with an arcane lock, and the password is a word of power that would open a portal and teleport the characters somewhere. That's pretty cool. Anytime you can mess, like you said, it's just like, hey, make them work for that, and then kick them in the ass right after it.
Right. Well, you could do several things with it, and be whether it's a word of power that does a portal and teleports the player somewhere, or if it calls a powerful being to it. Question is, how does that mage or whoever owns the chest usually get around it? Like that would be, I'm kind of curious to figure out, or maybe they just have a deal or whatever.
Yeah. And DM Dan says, are you afraid that they are going to do the same thing they did with 3.5? Too many character types, or are you in the camp of the more the better? That's a interesting question. What do you think?
So it becomes harder to track things, but because there's subclasses, it would be more of a problem if it was like a new character class after new character class, which creates more combinations. But and also in third edition, you had several things going. One, they just kept adding more character classes, and in addition to that, they kept adding more prestige classes. So then there became so many more different combinations. It gets to a point where it's really hard to track how it's going to interact with each other. Now, the more you add, it does get harder to track that, but because they are subclass abilities, you're going to get less combinations, and also the subclasses themselves, you're only looking at a handful of abilities that they're going to get from that subclass.
That's a great point.
So I think it's fine. I mean, it's just a matter of like tracking everything, and as a business, as a company, they're going to have to keep coming out with products, or you're going to get 6th edition Dungeons and Dragons. So take your pick.
The other side of that, I think, too, is there's not only a lot more people playing now, there's a lot of different kind of people now playing, and they're also telling different kinds of stories with D&D, and I think, footnote, I'll come back to that, but there's also, so there's like a lot of, I think people like having that variety of like, that it fits into their setting or the kind of stories they want to tell, and then or the themes they want to explore with their characters. So I'm all for it, and like you said, that the subclass really helps contain that. But the other thing too is like we I think you and I talked about this maybe just on the phone yesterday. But another difference in 5th edition is like the since there's not as much reliance on like in 3rd edition getting like magic items every level in all your slots, the characters, you have more of the power. It's kind of superhero-ish, but it's like, so having these subclasses kind of makes up for that, where it's like you're not relying on other items, you are where the powers are coming from. So it kind of allows you to have different kind of characters without having to plan them out, like, oh, if I get this magic item in that one, then I can do this cool thing. You could just do it.
I mean, there's so many campaigns that I join now, or even run, where you're starting at later levels.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't even have magic items.
Yeah,
or you have one, or you like. It's not like in 3rd edition or Pathfinder where it's like expected that you're not going to operate at character level without all this gear. So yeah, like it's brought it back to more about the character than about their stuff. At a certain point in Pathfinder and 3.5, it just felt like you didn't need the character; you could just send the gear out on the event.
yeah. The other part of that too, like you just said, you play a lot of different games. That's part of it too. I just play a lot of different games with different people, so it's cool to have these new things. Like, I want to try. Like, I'm playing a game. One shot with Sean McGovern this Saturday, and it's like, I want to try out the Eloquence Bard. That sounds cool. We just
coming up, or already happened?
This Saturday night.
Is that going to be something people can watch?
Yeah, it's on Twitch and Power Score RPG's channel. It's 6 to 8:30 Eastern.
Cool.
Yeah.
I will also be playing a nautical adventure.
With Guy?
With Guy this Thursday at 3 p.m. Eastern Time. Yep, 3 p.m. Eastern Time on Guy's Twitch channel, How to Be a Great GM. Kind of like pushing out his Kickstarter a little bit, which is pretty awesome. So apparently I'm going to be playing a Null Druid Bunsen with mange.
Okay.
Because we're being assigned characters. Okay. So it should be a lot of fun.
Yeah. I was thinking his Guy's Kickstarter, which is doing pretty good.
It just funded today.
Yep, I figured it would. It was super duper close last night. But I was laughing to myself because we had our post about it, and I was reading more about it. Crazy Hermit DM, that is Power Score RPG's Twitch channel on Saturday from 3 p.m. to 5 p.m. Eastern. Sean's a super good DM. I love playing with him. But
there's Guy's Kickstarter in the chat. If you guys want to check it out. Complete Guide to Nautical Adventures.
Yeah, and I had to laugh because it's like it's very cut and dry. It's like we have all the content, so we're just getting art and stuff, and then there's one stretch goal for a print and play deck, which looks pretty cool. And I was thinking, like, based on our own experiences, like, man, he's gonna be waiting for art and just looking over the stuff, and he's a creative guy. He's probably gonna think like, I want to add this to it too. So I'm gonna bet that it'll probably it sounds more modest than it will be on his Kickstarter page. It's like, yep, we're just doing the book and the deck. And it's like, you're gonna do other stuff, I'm sure.
Nice. Cujo was the 11th backer for his Kickstarter.
Oh wow, cool.
I don't know what number we are.
And it all came right out of his home campaign, so it's, that sounds pretty cool. Like they just developed as they play, and there's stuff
I
in
also
there.
suspect if you go to the Dungeons and Dragons Twitch channel, well, YouTube channel now, maybe it's on his channel. I don't know where it is, but he was doing a Saltmarsh campaign.
Yeah.
But I bet you see a bunch of the stuff straight from that book.
You know where else you'll be able to probably see some stuff from that book?
Where is that?
In our book, because Guy is one of our guest creators, and his encounter for Out of the Box is nautical themed, and it's pretty awesome.
That is absolutely true. You can check that out as well. Shameless plugs. All the shameless plugs.
Yes. Well, hey man, I'm a nerd too. This stuff excites me. I liked reading his encounters and looking over his.
Yeah,
stuff.
so I'm excited to play in that game, and it's cool to play a monstrous character.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what kind of druid I'm going to be. I just know I'm going to be a druid. Druids are a ton of fun.
And what level are they? Or do you know?
I don't know. Hopefully at least 4th, because isn't that when druids come wild shape into things that swim?
I don't know. Sure.
I believe it is. So I'm hoping for 4th because
Huh? What are you gonna turn into, like a seal pup?
Yeah, that's a swarm of quippers. That's what that is one of the things we need. We need swarm druids.
Yeah. That'd be pretty cool. Oh yeah, because you can't change. Could you turn into one quipper?
Yes.
Right? Yeah, but
you can.
Yeah.
It's not going to last very long. Yeah, 4th level gets a wild shape improvement. So hopefully we're at least 4th level so I can turn into a shark.
Yeah, sharks are scary. Me and Ted talked about that last night. Like, it's a scary monster. I think even more than some like Sahuagin or Sahuagin, however you want to say it.
Because it's a scary animal.
Right, because in real life you'd be like, wow, I know what that is, and that would be really scary to have like a reef shark, bearing down on you and stuff.
Well, and they're just like prehistoric.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, and the fact that they just got those rows and rows of teeth, and they pull back their lips, and like that's all you see in those black, lifeless eyes. So yeah, like it is like you said, like this Sahuagin and or whatever monster you were talking about. And some of these other monsters like the Kraken, like they're scary and all, but like a shark is a real primal fear.
Mm-hmm.
I have this irrational fear of oceans because of sharks.
Yeah. Oh yeah, me
too. And I like swimming in the ocean, but I'm like, I know I'm just going to get eaten by a shark one of these times.
Mm-hmm.
But and I don't know if it's because I'm a child of the '80s and Jaws, but yeah, it's just terrifying.
Mm-hmm. Bears are the same way. Like low level, it's like a brown bear. That'd be scary as hell, man.
They're a big animal.
I played a wizard. We were first level, and there was a brown bear, and they're like, "It's just a brown bear." I'm like, "I got 7 hit points, man. This thing's gonna eat me alive if I get anywhere close to it." Like,
so it's funny you mentioned bears because when we went out to do our like creator lunch, and it was like me, Ted, James Intercasso, and V from the Crafting Muse. One of the things that came up, she lives in Northwest New Jersey, which is kind of mountainous. There's a lot of black bears up there, and they've had a problem with black bears coming up on their,
really?
on their back porch. And the problem is like the porch comes right up against the kitchen, and the kitchen's where they cook. So like they smell food and they get curious, and like they call animal control, and they're like, we recommend maybe getting something that's loud and goes bang.
Like a bear gun.
Yeah. Because what? And that's the small bears, right? And they're still freaking scary.
Yeah.
400 pounds of claws and teeth.
Mm-hmm. We missed a question from Super Melon Senpai. They saw our video on the Paladin Oath of Heroism and the other new thing, which was the College of Eloquence. Do you think it's a bit too powerful right now, or is it pretty balanced? I can't speak for you. I really don't care about balance all that much in games, unless that makes the other players not have as much fun. I don't care.
Yeah, the really powerful ability is for the 7th level Paladin ability with the reaction that seemed really strong. But then I'm like, well, what are you giving up to get that? Hey, Emerald Shade Innkeeper, what do you're giving up the auras, like the Oath of the Ancients aura is resistance against magic damage.
Yeah.
Pretty strong. Some of the other ones have some really good auras as well.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really about how it plays out in your game and what kind of games you're running.
Yep. And like I said, if one person tries out something and it's just like all the other players are like, oh man, this guy's like better at us in every way, then okay, then I might.
But yeah, then you're gonna get it. And like the other really powerful abilities, like their 15th level ability, but while you're 15th level, most games don't ever go to that level, so it's never gonna come up. If you multi-class at all, your chances of getting that have gone down significantly. But it's not really that big a deal. And yes, I don't actually care about balance as much either. Like I remember when we did the video for the Unearthed Arcana, and what was it? Was it the Lore Wizard?
Yeah.
And my brother was like losing his shit, and Ted was like, "Yeah, I don't think I'd allow it." I'm like, "I don't care." Like I've even told people in our thing is, you all want to. If every one of you wants to be a Lore Wizard, go for it. I don't care. I'll find a way to kill you if I need to.
Theory crafting is yeah, exactly. Theory crafting is fun and to speculate, but some of the things are like, well, you could do this spell at like a mile away, and it's like, yeah, but are you really like how many times are you really gonna do that when you're playing? Probably not at all. And if you did one time, it's like, yeah, that's the cool thing that they do.
Yeah. Jester's sketchbook. There's a level 15. Yeah, like unless I'm starting at a high level game, like Mark's joke would be if we played 15th level, we had to start at 12th, and like we finally just played a game where we went that high, and it took us like 4 or 5 years to get through that campaign, and it was the first time ever we took a game from level 1. I did run one game in 3rd edition where they started at 5th or 6th, and they went up to we ended. They were like 18, the 15 to 18 mark.
Okay.
But again, they started at level 6, and we played that for a while. And then we might have even been doing things. We might have even been doing it by XP and been like allowing multiple level gains at a time. And I mean, who knows? It was a wild west back then.
It always is, man. Are you essentially gods at that point? No, that's the Immortals set. The gold box. I loved that thing.
Well, in 3rd edition, you had the epic level handbook, and you could do things like escape artist through a wall of force or swim up a waterfall.
4th edition went up to like 30th level too, didn't it? Like they had like epic levels.
I think so. We didn't play that high or that for as long, so I would not know. We played for a while, like a year and a half, but we did not get the epic levels.
I mean, it was not even out for very long to begin with. Here's S Summit. They're in a game right now from started at level 3. They're level 12 now after 16 months. That sounds about what my group's pace is. We started at first and we played for about maybe once a month, but for probably like 2 years, and they're like 10th level. And that's I like that. Higher level stuff, gets pretty hairy to manage for me.
Well, I don't know. Like, so I like progressing through the game.
Yeah, sure.
And my pet peeve about like almost every online game I've played in, like there's like almost like no to zero progression, and I'm like, this is like you guys are leaving out my favorite part of the game. And that is like actually getting to level up and get better.
Yeah, it's like that's the whole point of the game. That's why it's a role playing game.
Yeah, well it's the game part. It's the game part of it, and like that's fine. I get it. You guys just want to play and role play with each other and cry and stuff. But that's fine.
Yeah, but you can tell cooler stories because you have new stuff to do. It's like I can set the story because I have this new spell or something, right? Well, we're almost at the time. So yeah, if you are, I'm going to be putting that. The call for our Gamers for our Sunday game various places. So if you're interested in that, keep an eye on our Discord and our Patreon page and our secret Facebook group. Do you have any
Places you'll be
announcements?
looking for players, and it's going to go
You
places.
get to play with a world-class DM.
Not
We all are. Not our words.
our words. Some other
Yeah.
fools call us
Yeah.
that.
So yeah, Dave's putting the links in the chat to our pledge manager, which is cool.
Yep, you can still get in on the late as a late pledge to the Kickstarter. You get pretty much all the benefits, not quite all, but nearly all the benefits of getting in on the Kickstarter. For one, the price, you'll get the Kickstarter prices, which will go up once we go to print, so you can take advantage of that. There are plenty of other things you can check out in the description. We have links to the videos we've done this week. We've got links to the articles on the website, to the Patreon, where we're putting out D&D content every single month. You guys are probably tired of hearing that. We also do a private chat for the patrons every Monday night. And there's the newsletter, there's the Discord, there's all kinds of things where you can hang out with us.
And there's on the pledge manager, there's ways to get badges for Nerdarchy the convention.
Yes, absolutely. Get 3-day badge, $50. The price will go up when we move it out of the pledge manager or we hit a certain number, whichever happens first. So there's definitely some cool things. And also the people in our pledge manager, they're going to get the first opportunity to upgrade to VIP badges and super VIP badges, which are going to be super cool. So I think that's about it for now. We'll be back next Monday for the patrons, and we'll be back next Tuesday for everyone else. Some combination of Doug, Dave, and Ted. It's a mystery. We're just going to roll dice and see what happens. So until next time, stay nerdy.